Good night, good night, good night, everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm in this chat by myself since I messed up quite a bit. The I had to change my channel name, people. I had to change my channel because um, uncensored views, which was my preferred choice, there were so many things related to uncensored views that it made it very, very difficult to locate the channel when you type in the word. So I made a decision to change the channel today. And if you probably noticed, the time of this was supposed to be at 8 p.m. And I changed to 9 p.m. because I was sort of way behind actually. So I'm gonna apologize for that. So if I'm here by myself tonight, cheers. But we have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. Should be a good show. A lot to talk about. Um, the tonight we're gonna do the same topic we did previously, and I think the thumbnail sort of says it all. If you saw the thumbnail, which had both the cheers, good evening, Princess Jillian, which had both the vice president. Um, I'm sorry, yeah, the vice president, or the I should change her name to the Democratic nominee, and the ex-president there actually. And I apologize for the mix-up because I think tonight's show is going to be really, really good. Actually, I have some good materials. I did a lot of research today, got a lot of information, and it should be a good discussion around where things are. There. This is probably across the globe in terms of presidential elections. Or in some countries they use the term sort of more prime minister. Whatever the terminology that's utilized when you have an election, I think this one's going to be hot, people. We went from a situation where the Republicans were enthused, mobilized. You saw last week their convention, and it was off the chart, right? They were happy as a lark. Much power to them. It's a good thing. And Democrats were in the doldrums because Biden's debate performance was so bad that there was despondency in the Democrats' camp around where do they go from here. There was a lot of hand wringing, a lot of concerns. People were breaking ranks and basically saying Joe Biden needs to not pursue a second term, and that someone else who's younger, more able, should take up the mantle. Well, Joe made the decision for the country and for his party and did the right thing. He decided to forego pursuing a second term and anointed, appointed, endorsed Kamala for the role. Good night, Brian. Glad you could join me. Hey, Brian, how did you come in? Did you just click on the link? How did that work? Because I changed the channel this evening, late this evening, the channel name, because I realized that searching for uncensored views was the most difficult thing. It was way, way down. There were some pictures and some YouTube channels which were not digestible, one would say. I guess there's a lot of things around uncensored. So I changed the channel, which probably threw a lot of people off, actually. So if it's only 3 or 4 of us in the chat tonight, I would be surprised. But I'm sure people watch it subsequently. So let me know how you got to link on it, because I spent some time. I think I started about 5 o'clock changing it, and I was going to do the session here at 8 p.m. this evening, and realized I need more time to, because when you're changing your channel name, it's not just your name. You're changing your layout. You're changing a lot of information, your disclaimer information, a lot of information that you have in the description. So it did take some time to do it, but I'm glad you're here. And the discussion should be good tonight. And I want everyone to participate in discussion because I have a lot of information to disseminate, and I want you to participate and just engage, because I'm encouraged, I'm engaged, and I have some things to play too, which should be fun. So what am I going to talk about tonight? Because as you see in my thumbnail, I had the ex-president in a courtroom setting, because I think we know he loves a courtroom, and that's where Kamala is at her best, actually, given that she was a former prosecutor. So that worked really, really well, actually, in terms of trying to set that up and having something which people can resonate with people and they can relate to. And the news are just flying. Oh, okay, you're a subscriber. Okay, thanks, and thanks for subscribing, by the way. The news surrounding the presidential election or upcoming presidential election, there's just so much stuff out there, and I'm not going to talk about that every evening, frankly, even though one could do so, because if you check CNN, I don't really watch Fox, but I have to start watching Fox since I'm doing this program. Or if you check NBC, CBS, Newsmax, whatever you want to check, it's all the rave. And Kamala is now the star, I'll say. It's her time, and she's all over the place. So I'm gonna play something, some excerpts from her press conference today, or her rallying speech today. BM saying cranky. You can't use cranky in this forum. You have to use another name. Now, I was Mr. Uncensored until I got rid of that name. So it's now called Balanced View, because I do think I'm balanced, even though if you hear me talking about the election of Trump and Harris, you'd say that's the most biased person ever. He's a Democrat, and that's all he talks about. And he's skewed to one side. So I may be unbalanced there and not balanced. But let me just see what you're saying. Okay, I think this was planned from last campaign. Joe would do one term and Kamala would run this campaign. Joe stayed in the race long enough to throw off the Trump team. BM, I think you give them too much credit, BM. Come on, BM, man. You give them too much credit. I don't think so. I think Joe believed he could beat Trump again. You know, when you beat somebody once, bless up Ted Dexter, when you beat someone once and you don't have respect for that person, I do think you believe that you can do so again. So I can't go with that theory. It's just like people have this theory about, Trump probably set up the situation last week where there was an assassination attempt on his life. I don't buy into that. No one's going to take risks with their life that way, where someone actually who's not a marksman is going to shoot and touch their ear or something. So many things could go wrong in that whole setup. And as you see, the head of the Secret Service resigned under pressure from both Democrats and Republicans. So I'm not buying that. Thanks. Yes, that's my new name, Mr. Balanced. Even though I probably should say balanced and not past tense, because I'm not dead. So maybe I change it to Mr. Balanced versus the channel could be Balanced View, but not make it past tense for the balance. But I'm probably leave it anyway. It resonates. So yeah, I don't think so, BM. But what I want to talk about a couple of things. And I have enough ammunition here to go a long time, but I probably do an hour, because I said I want to do an hour of this session, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, or maybe two times a week, depending upon the desire for it by the individuals who engage me in this forum. What are the main challenges that Republicans face in running against Kamala Harris? What are the challenges that they face? I'm going to go through those. Then I'll talk about the strategies that they're employing or deploying to counteract this and to convince the electorate that she should not be elected president. And then I'll talk about how she's responding. And in that whole vein, I'll also play some, if I can find them, excerpts from her session today that she had, and it's really cute. And also talk about Mr. J.D. Vance's previous comments on Trump. Yes, Joe was not ready. I think Joe, we know how this works, people, right? So when you're getting older, and we see it with a lot of our grandfathers and grandmas, and we all be lucky to get there at some point. But he's 80-something years old. And the decline of someone sometimes appreciates, which means it happens, accelerates, probably should say instead of appreciates, accelerates real quickly, sometimes without much warning. And I think that's what's happening to Joe. So we talk about Kamala a little bit, actually. So what are the main challenges Republicans face in running against Kamala Harris, who was the vice president, and it's sort of now um, sewn up the whole nominee for the Democrats because most people have come out and endorsed her. She has enough delegates, you don't have to worry about that. And she has the Republicans on the run, and that's without a doubt. Um, so the first thing is there's enthusiasm about her being nominated. Her elevation to the top of the ticket has given Democrats a jolt of energy, as you can hear in my voice, actually, after the weeks of hand wringing and concern about Biden. And this renewed enthusiasm has really made the base extremely enthusiastic, energized the base. And here's a stat, which I saw yesterday, which is that prior to her coming on board as the nominee or being endorsed by him, the campaign for Biden would get, say, 200 to 300 persons per week who want to volunteer to go out in the fields and support the campaign and work on behalf of the campaign. When she was nominated and was publicized, they had 28,000 people in one day. So you go check those numbers. You go from 300 to 28,000. So you can see there was that pent up energy ready to be released, almost like a nuclear bomb, and it got let go, and they were off. Base is energized, and there's nothing like an energized base that has an objective and a goal and believe they have a mission to accomplish. As I talked about yesterday, I think in her first 24 hours, the number was about 50 million that she raised. That number got revised to 80 million. That number in the last 2 to 3 days is now over 100 million. And that's coupled with the 98 million that Biden had previously had in his coffers because he was burning through cash that she'd also be able to assume. So you can round it out and say she has about $200 million to go shore up her campaign, get her message out, pay campaign staffers. And as I mentioned yesterday, I'll be contributing to the campaign for my first time ever doing so. Part of it was mainly due to restrictions in my previous work life, but I'm glad to do so. So it should be really interesting. At 59, so I'm going through the rationale and the reasons why there's concern on the Republicans' part concerning her, and what are their main challenges in running against her. Age contrast. She's 59. Trump is about 78 now, 77, 78. And, there is a negative perception when you pass a certain age, right? You seem to be much more frail, even though he seemed to be energized. You saw him after he got shot, saying fight, fight, fight. And when you compare him to Biden, that comparison made him look like a youngster. But they can't go after the age anymore. I did it with Biden. That's why they're upset. Can't go after the age anymore. Potential to attract key voters. And I think mainly young people who may be ambivalent about voting or disinterested and now gets really energized. Independents, centrists, right? She also has the ability to capitalize on a lot of the anti-Trump sentiment. Because let's be truthful, people. The things that Trump has done, continues to do, are not presidential in nature. And she can therefore attract, especially in the swing states, some of those votes that people may not have voted or would have gone to Trump. So it should be interesting. The convicted felon versus the veteran prosecutor is the perfect campaign storyline. Mainstream media is salivating right now. Oh, mainstream media rating is going through the roof. I mean, as I said last night, if you think about when Trump was in power, all the media companies made money, lots of money, because He is always the story. And now he's still the story, but he has a prosecutor on his tail. And you saw my thumbnail, which sort of illustrated that. Now, legal challenges. Some Republicans, if you think about where things are, some Republicans are planning to, if you heard Johnson speak, who's the leader of the House, he complained about Democrats being disenfranchised because Joe Biden was elected through the traditional process of electing a nominee for your party, and he's no longer in play, but he did so voluntarily. So they're saying in certain states that's not allowed. I'm not sure what states. Democrats are arguing there's no legal basis for the challenge. And it was a Biden-Harris ticket anyway. They just flipped it. So it should be interesting. So if you're trying to pursue, if you believe that you're so confident of winning and that Harris was a liability and Biden even worse liability, and now you're saying that you want to go through the legal process because she shouldn't be on a ticket, then you know you're concerned. And by the way, just for additional information, today a new poll came out, and the poll had Trump at 42% and Harris at 44%. Let me repeat that. Trump is at 42%, Harris at 44%. If you saw the chart I showed yesterday, you look at yesterday's episode, he was either winning or even against Biden or against Harris, right? In some cases, he had an 8-point number difference. Most of his significant margin was with Biden, but in some of the polls taken, he had a big number against Harris. But that was before Harris is now the nominee and stepped up and is in the limelight. And she's had a brilliant start. They're also struggling with defining Harris. Unlike Biden, Harris is not a well-known person to the Republicans. She's not the incumbent. Even though you try to associate policies with her, she's not the incumbent. So they may want to paint her as being inexperienced, as being risky, as being untested. But that's going to be a challenge for them because she can always say, well, I was there with the president. I was his confidant. I was helping him with some of those decisions. And she now has a chance anyway to really impress the public. And I'll play something which shows that she's up for the fight. Some of the challenges actually that they'll face, but which they'll probably get around, is around, one thing they'll focus on is immigration. And I'll go into some of the things that they're going to be doing. They have to try to make her the face of the unpopular public opinion about immigration. And that's a vulnerability of a Democrat. But that's not a challenge for them. That's a positive for them. And then on the more prosecutorial grounds, they may try to use her background, but we'll get into that actually in terms of some of the things they're going to be doing. And I'll play something right now, which I was going to play at the end, but I think it makes sense to play it now because and tell me if you can hear these people.
Before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Hey, people, World War III is breaking out in the presidential arena, and you can see she's coming out swinging. She's coming out swinging. Left, right. She's going for the knockout early. She's not even waiting to throw some jabs and let it go 4 or 5 rounds. She's going hard. And it's a long race, so hopefully she has the stamina for the race. But if you can hear what she's saying, basically, which is, people like the convicted person, that's why I pursue. Right? So the question here is, some are saying that the black community was enthusiastic and supportive about the Obama candidacy and got nothing for it. Why should they support this candidate? Well, I think if Biden's record is any indication, and there's linkage between the Biden ticket, the Biden administration, and Kamala, because she's part of that. I think Biden has done a lot for blacks. Whatever policy he had that he put in place that affected the entirety of the population resonated with the black community, helped the black community, right? If you look at a number of the figures, things like unemployment across the black community, it's in a much better place than it was before. I did say this: Obama was a failed president. Obama is all talk and no execution. Sorry. I've said that before. I said that last night. So don't disagree about the view about Obama. And look, when you're president, you have to be very careful because politics is a tough game. You can't be seen to be biased to any one side, but you can effect policies which is going to support people in general, but resonate a lot with, especially the key base. So you got to think about, you can't think about Kamala without thinking about Biden. They're intertwined. They're collated. They're basically one and the same. It's going to be a continuation of what he's doing. She has to show some differentiation, and I'll get into that. But it's a continuum, right? So, yeah, we'll touch upon that a little bit. They're going to come up with that. Look, Republicans go low, real low. They are low class. And I know I'm supposed to be balanced, but when it comes to Republican, it's hard. It's hard to be balanced, given what they are. And if you understand how they are and how they operate. And Democrats have always been trying to take the high road. And I believe if you get a right hand, you got to give a left hand. I believe in an eye for an eye. I'm not into turning the other cheek. And the Democrats have turned the other cheek enough. And I think Kamala is a little bit different. If you hear that, what she said today, she's making it clear. Your personal record is part of this whole thing. Yeah, I think Princess Julian, she's showing that. And it's impressive so far. Hopefully it continues. But I think that's who she is, right? If you look at her accomplishments, which is a lot of firsts, right? First woman DA in California, Attorney General, first black senator in California, first black woman as vice president. She has a lot of firsts in her. Went to HSBC school, well-educated, well-informed. I think there's a lot about her which suggests that she's up for this fight, and she's gonna make it a tough. If she loses, it won't be because she hasn't tried or put in a great effort. You have to give me more than just tying her to Joe, as Joe is a white male and black leaders seem to be fearful of doing stuff for black people. No, I don't think it's fearful of doing stuff for black people. But if anyone has worked in a certain environment where it's a very diverse area, you have to be careful not to be seen to be biased, because you ran on the platform of being a person of the people. So how are you going to just carve out one group and just saying, you know what, I'm only going to provide things for you or only for you? What you need to do is affect policies which is going to have material effect on that population, especially people who are disenfranchised or below the poverty line, those who can't really put food on the table. But in America, the focus has always been on the middle class, because that's where most of the votes are. Working class and middle class, mainly middle class, actually. But also people here are very set in their ways about what position they take. So yeah, no, it's not just about the Biden association, but it's not a bad association to be, because you may say Biden is a Caucasian male. Biden realized that he wouldn't have won the election without putting Kamala on the ticket. He wouldn't have won the election without South Carolina. That's where the last election turned for him, is in South Carolina, when he got the nomination to be the Democratic nominee. It was South Carolina that saved him, and he appreciated it, and he put Kamala on there. So race does play a role. So we can't say because he's Caucasian, he didn't have initiative. Go look at his, I read what he did yesterday, right? A number of things. Things like student loan debt, which go across the board, affected blacks. Infrastructure going to affect blacks. Giving some pardons to people who got convicted of marijuana does affect black. He has done things which affect the black community much more than Obama has. Obama spent 8, and Biden's only been in office for 3 years, 3.5 years. Obama was in there for 8 years, and we're still struggling. Apart from Obamacare, we have no idea what he did. None. I mean, there's other thing that he did. I'm just being general here, but he didn't do a lot to, as far as I'm concerned, to help his people in general. So I don't think Kamala should go in and say, I'm just going to do this for a certain base. But I think she has to be conscious that she's not another Obama. And look, what's the alternative, Mr. Observation? Right, but yeah, but Trump ain't doing anything for you anyway. If you're black, I don't know if you're black, Mr. Observation, but Trump is not doing anything for anybody that's not like him. Trump's whole purpose in life is to look. It's been well proven that Trump is a racist, even though he'll deny it. He's a xenophobic racist who abuses women, who lies, who cheats, who lacks integrity, who lacks a moral compass. Should I keep going? I could go on all night, talking about Trump. But we'll get to Trump. So, and as she says, she's a prosecutor. He's a criminal, period. Yeah, look, I mean, we all would agree that Obama is it's kind of funny when you do a post-mortem on people who Obama energized the black community. He was the first, but if you look back at his record and what he did, you just talk. No, I don't know if that's the case actually. We'll see how that works out, Princess Julian. Look, you're gonna say things as you're coming through, trying to get elected, with something you can't deliver on, right? That's gonna happen. That's without a doubt. That's just like a politician. The question is, how do you rebound? How do you regroup? And how do you come forward? So let's touch upon what are the various strategies that Republicans are employing and claims being made regarding Harris's potential candidacy for president. So overall, what they have done is, first of all, they're going to put in place some legal challenges for her getting the nominee. They're going to go have personal attacks, which they've started already. And just as importantly, policy-based attacks, because even though Mr. Observation is saying don't just use Biden as the means of demonstrating what she'll be doing and how she should be viewed, they're going to use it to say she's part of that team, and whatever policies don't work or what things have been done, she's just as responsible as the president. So we can't bifurcate the two. I don't know if he was triple agent, but he sure didn't deliver. So let's talk about some of the things that they're going to be doing. They're first are questioning her legitimacy for the role, because as Mike Johnson is basically saying, the electoral process was followed to elect Biden. All of a sudden, she got the role. I don't think he has a case in you know what, but if he goes to the Supreme Court, we know how that works. They're saying it was a coup. So what they're saying is that Biden was pressured or overthrown, because what a coup is, to enable her to assume the nomination. But I don't think the Democrat had a one person in mind when they pushed for Biden to not pursue a second term. I don't think they had one person in mind. So it's kind of difficult to say that it was a coup, because normally when you have a coup in this situation and so close to election, the timeline for the election, and you have no person identified clearly, because Kamala wasn't the person who was identified, I can tell you, by some people. That's why you see the reluctance by Obama to not to endorse her, by Schumer to endorse her, by the Democratic leader of the House, Jeffries, to endorse her. They didn't come and endorse her right away. They were reactive versus proactive. And if I'm Kamala, I'll take that personal. I'd go through the process. I'll say to them, you know what? Let's not be doubting me. And I'll remember who wasn't on board from who was on board. Because it's not okay to do that, actually. They were like playing that waiting game. And by the way, Jeffries is black, and he was playing the waiting game, people. So that's politics, though. That's politics. And maybe that's why Obama doesn't do it. because he may think people are saying he just wants to elect the black person may not be qualified. You know, the one of the House speakers from Tennessee said today that she's a DE&I person, which is, you know, the whole diversity, equity, inclusion. And it's meant to say she's not qualified. That's why we use the DEI number, the DEI label, actually, I should say. Obama even refused to elect a black judge to the Supreme Court when he had the opportunity. He elected a Hispanic woman and Jewish woman. Yeah, and Biden elected a black judge, right? So you see the difference. Maybe because people can say, well, Biden can take more risks, but I don't think that's it. I think Obama is just, we shouldn't talk about Obama. He's a waste. I'm sorry to say that. He's a waste. Why should they care if they're confident nominee? What do you mean by that, Brian Burke? I'm not sure I follow you. So I'm going through the things that have been talked about. Brian, elaborate on that for me, please. They're going to attack her qualifications. As I mentioned before, it's going to be that, you know, she hasn't been there, done what? She's not Biden, so it's going to be difficult for them to attack her qualifications in terms of, well, one call it qualification. They can attack him on his age. They can attack him on his policy, and that's what they do to her. And I'll get to what the key thing I think they'll use to attack her. But as I mentioned, Tim Burchett today, who's one of the House, is part of the House and from Tennessee, labeled her as D&I. So that may be something that come out, but I don't think that will stick. But she's different from Biden. In terms, she's a Indian, black, and a lot of Jamaicans want to claim her. I'm not really claiming her as Jamaican. And she's married to a Caucasian male. She has a lot of stuff. She's a very diverse. Her portfolio of who she is and who she associates with is extremely diverse. And her qualifications, education and otherwise, academically, is really good. And she's also seen to be tough on crime, which may be bad for some people, but good for others. Border crisis, immigration. That's where they're going to hit her really hard. And that's where the Biden administration, and now she will be vulnerable. Yes, he's come up with some nickname already about her laughing, for example, about her funny laugh. And they're talking about her laughing. And that's part of the item I have here, more personal attack. Yeah, she's good looking. She's fit. I wouldn't call it. Is she young? What do we call it? She's 59. Is 59 young? So I don't know if 59 is young anymore, but maybe it is. You make a lot of people feel good if you say 59 is young. So border crisis, right, is huge. And I think on the border, you have maybe 4 or 5 things they'll come with. So what are those? They're going to say, they're going to paint her, they call her the border queen, and they have a border name for her. So that's one of the nicknames for her. They're going to paint her as being ineffective and unqualified in handling immigration type issues. And the border crisis is going to be central to that. They're going to focus on the border. As you know, there's at the southern border, there's a lot of consternation, hand-wringing, because a lot of people are coming in, illegal immigrants are coming in through the border. And you hear what happened in Texas and New Mexico and Arizona. There's a lot of that happening. You know, Arizona is more out west in that part of the world. And so they're going to attack her there. They're labeling her as the border czar. And let me just touch upon these comments and then come back to the list of things I think they'll pursue. Mr. Observation is saying, Obama to serve 8 years as Democratic candidate and did nothing for black people. What would be different here? What troubles do we have that we can use as premise for trust? We just have to trust. In Kamala, we trust. But I don't think she just focused. Look, as I've said before, I've worked in organizations. Let me use my my personal experiences. I have taken some risk in my career when it comes to this, but I've also had to balance out that risk in different organizations. Depends on the organization you're with. In the U.S., it's going to be tough. That's what Republicans are focused on, right? So in my previous life, when I worked in public accounting, when I first started, I was I'm going to do a little personal history, one of 5 black individuals in my class. And I was in the New York office where they had quite a bit of people. Probably had about 1,000 people in the New York office. So we didn't have 20 people look like me. And say 6-7 years later, we had about, the office had grown, but we had about 100 because we We actually spent time focused on just doing it. When I got to a more senior position, we actually didn't really care. I don't want to use the word not care, but we just basically said, you know what? We have to do what we have to do. But what happened also is when companies allow you to do this sometimes, and I'm digressing here a little bit, I'll get back to what we're talking about. They sometimes don't hire the best people. So when they feel they can say, see, I told you so. I worked in other organizations where it wasn't as easy to do that. It was much more difficult. And you have to realize that I'm hiring for the best person for the job based on meritocracy. I can't just hire somebody because they look like me, right? Now, we didn't do in public, you had much more latitude to hire in the context of it's a much broader pool. So I can go out and source candidates who look like you, who are qualified and should get the role based on their experience and based on their expertise. And sometimes the people who are making the initial decision sometimes will look at the resume and draw a conclusion when the resume don't tell the whole story. I'm gonna give you an example quickly and then go back to this. Because I'm not talking about me here, I'm talking about that situation. We went to I won't say which college to recruit. We got the resumes, about 100 resumes. The person who looked at the resume was a junior to me. And he said, you got about 100 resumes. He gave me about 10 to look at. I looked at it. There were no names that sounded like what I think they should sound like. You know, certain persuasions have certain special names. So I looked through the list and I asked him for one of the resume. I said, in this resume, this person has about straight A's. Why do you select them to be part of the list that we're going to interview? This doesn't make sense to me. Because all these people are from the same school, so they're going to be graded the same. The grades are the same. And he said, well, the person didn't have an internship in a Wall Street firm, so therefore he only worked like say they worked at Burger King and Wendy's. I'm like, what do I have to do with a slice of bread? They have the grades. Make a long story short, I went to the school, we interviewed the person. Person was brilliant. The person now a very senior person in a large organization, to make a long story short, because they were given an opportunity, but they weren't selected because the resume's name and experience didn't marry to what the person perceived it to be. When a lot of people like us don't get the chance to get those internships to get those roles. So let me go back to this, what we're talking about here. When you're in an environment like what Kamala is going to be in, or even where Obama was in, even I'm the biggest Obama supporter, you have to be careful when you make certain decisions as to how you're going to be viewed. If you just make decisions that just affect one persuasion, because you're that persuasion, it won't be received well. What you have to do is make decisions that affect the larger population, but you know it's going to significantly benefit those who are disenfranchised. That's my soliloquy on that. You ought to say, honestly, I would vote for Cami if she actually a Republican in Democratic dress. Trump turned me off because he can't sell policies. No, it's more than that, Yardi. Just look at the person and what they represent, right? Just look at what they represent. We have so many years with white men as president, so we can use that. So we not make a change. I'm not sure I understand that, Dexter. I think you missed out something there. I think you missed something. So come back to me, Dexter, in terms of what you're saying. Let me just go to the rest of the things that you're going to go through, because a lot of these are border related. They're planning to pass a resolution in the House condemning her for handling up the border crisis. This is all a play, people. They want to put it out there in the public domain that they have done something and denounce her for the border crisis. And by the way, people, let me just say this about the border. You remember earlier, was it about 6 months ago before that, where Biden came up with a policy, a law actually, that was going to help in remediating the border situation. And the Senate passed it because it was bipartisan support in the Senate. And then when he got to the House, Trump tells Johnson to derail it because he wants to use it for his own purpose. Right? Not debatable. So in that situation, frankly, they were making efforts, and I hope the Harris team really stressed this to address the situation, and Trump doesn't want to address because he wants to use that as a key item, which they're doing now, to say that she's pouring the border. But she's not the president anyway, so it's Biden's, but she'll own it because she's part of the ticket. You have governors like Greg Abbott and certain members of Congress who are all just focused on her and the border and trying to paint her as the border czar, as they call it. And what they also are doing, which they normally do when you're the president, they want to see incidents that occur. So someone get hurt. Once in a while, someone may get killed by an illegal immigrant. They want to pull up the specific examples and put it in their message to say, this is what happens. She's the reason for this. While frankly, people, Democrats should leverage their whole gun argument in terms of how many lives gun take. We agree that, it's unfortunate someone get killed by an illegal immigrant, but a lot of people get killed by citizens here. So they'll make that case though. And it will be bought off by the general public because that's how things are. Yeah, they said, but on a real, what Dems did to New York and Cali is unforgivable. Trump would have to be the last resort. Yeah. What do you mean did to New York and Cali, Yardi? What did them done to New York and Cali? No, I'm not concerned. If he's Jewish, maybe it's about time. He won't have any say in our policies. And by the way, people, she has been more critical about the Middle East situation than Biden. You notice that nowhere have I said they're going to link her to what's happening in the Middle East. That's a very toxic area to touch, right? Nobody wants to touch that because they also want the Arab vote, even though it's not as large as the Jewish vote. So Biden would have struggled with a place like Michigan, which is a large Arab population, because some people would just not vote. They don't care what happens. They may hate Trump more than Biden, but they can't bring themselves to vote for Biden, given what's in the Middle East and how the U.S. has supported Israel. And obviously, yes, her husband is Jewish, but I think she'd be more critical than Biden and take a stronger stance than Biden has, actually. And look, it's a very delicate situation, tough situation. They're going to link her to Biden's policies. They're attempting to tie her to them already, especially the unpopular ones, and many around immigration, because Biden has some good policies, right? Student loan debt, COVID relief, Inflation Reduction Act, infrastructure investment. He has quite a bit of stuff, actually. How was Manhattan during lockdown, Craig, and did it ever recover? No, it has recovered. Look, Manhattan, New York is resilient, people. New Yorkers welcome a challenge, right? It's been difficult. I think the change that has affected New York, Manhattan more than anything else, but also because people live in the city, it may not have been as significant and as long lasting as one may think, is because one is companies started allowing people to work remotely. And the city was the case where everybody would go into the city to work and then go back home. And a lot of people live in the city. So when you're not working remotely, a lot of businesses depend on that traffic in Manhattan sustain itself. A lot of the city make a lot of money from property taxes on commercial properties, much more than it does than residential. So that has been impact for the city. But I think the city has also been hurt significantly by the number of migrants, illegal immigrants who are coming to the city. And the city is a sanctuary state, so it's supporting them. So it's been tough for the city, but the city is recovering. I wouldn't say things are ever going to be back to what they call true normal, but condo prices, house prices are stable. So it's recovering. Businesses are getting better. Tourism is strong. So it's in a decent place. But it probably it won't be the same as it was before for a number of different factors, some which I've mentioned. It's not as robust a city as it was before. And there are some places where, shelters have been expanded. Some individuals who don't function as normal citizens are in some of those environments. It's not creating the best situation. I was on Wall Street at 9/11, Yardi. In fact, I'm going to digress here. Yardi, why are we going down this route? You're going to help me go off on a tangent. So 9/11, well, two things actually. Before 9/11, I'm going to digress here a little bit, people. We'll come back to this. When they had the bomb in the World Trade Center, I used to work on the 95th floor of the World Trade Center of One World, which is what first one was hit. I worked in there for maybe 5 years, I think, before the first bombing. And then when the bombing occurred, I was at a Big Four accounting firm. They moved us out to across the street to the Merrill Lynch Financial Building, just across the street from the World Trade Center. So we moved out after that bombing because when the bombing occurred, we had to move to Midtown. Luckily, there was a merger at the point in time, as we would have been displaced. And then 2001, I was working down Water Street, which is next door to Wall Street. Actually, Wall Street hits Water Street when the bombing occurred. But I was in Midtown when the bombing occurred, so I was in Midtown at a conference, and it was interesting actually that I was watching the whole thing, and I can't say I'm the smartest person when it comes to this. I wanted to go downtown to see what was happening. When the first plane hit, I was in Midtown seeing it. I was walking downtown to see it. And the next one hit, and I was still walking downtown to see it. And then they blocked it from being able to go to the area, so I had to take diversion and walk home. Long walk home. Difficult time, but yeah. I was on Wall Street when it occurred. Difficult time for a lot of people, actually. And people are still having illness from what happened. So they're going to link her to Biden policies. They're going to try to portray as lenient on crime. I think she had a 2020 tweet that she made about getting funds for bailing out, raising funds for a bail organization. But she was a prosecutor, so she can get over that easily. They're gonna get personal. They're gonna emphasize her laugh. I think people have some issues with her laugh. Not sure why. Her laugh sounds fine to me. They're gonna portray. She's from California, and we know California, San Francisco. She was in San Francisco at one point. They're gonna portray her as being. They like to call California, especially those in San Francisco, as very progressive, and it's supposed to be a bad thing. So they'll use that. And they're going to focus on her personality. They may even go to her much more in her personal life, but that's the list of things. But here's more importantly, how is she responding? And you hear that message from her today where she's saying, I know people like Trump. I've prosecuted them. And so therefore, I know what I'm getting involved in. Who was mayor at the time of 2001? It was Giuliani, actually. And we see how he ended up. He's now bankrupt. Now he was the star then, actually, like a movie star. No, like a rock star. He was a rock star mayor. So it's kind of sad to see how he was, but he wasn't supportive of people who look like me, actually. To the contrary, he wasn't supportive of people who look like me. Giuliani was about Giuliani. He made his name going after the mob. That's how he made his name. So Kamala, how she responded to Republican attacks? She's highlighting her experience, emphasizing her track record. She's very assertive, as we saw today. She's focused on a lot of positive achievements that I mentioned yesterday, which when you extrapolate them and talk about them and look at them, they're really good policies. She's going to address the immigration criticism, but it's going to be tough because, let's be frank, it has not gone well. But she can also talk about what I mentioned before, which is they blocked the bipartisan border bill. So they're just to blame. And she had helped with the negotiation of that bill. So she should just use that as a means of saying, you know what? You presented it. This wasn't about me, that was about you. You were trying to support your leader, and you prevent this from passing for us to address this meaningfully. I will admit, though, that Democrats were slow in getting this bill done, trying to get it passed. You ought to say, none of Trump is soft underbelly, not his private life. Trump has so much things bad. You know what? I have the Trump list here. I'll say this program is going to be an hour, so I may do the Trump list another day. But the Trump list is nice. People, it's a nice list. I'm gonna play a tape though, a little bit, for relating to Trump actually. Because I think it's important I play it if I can find it, because I think Trump is easy in terms of coming up with things which are deemed to be bad when it relates to Trump, actually. I don't think that's difficult. So here's the thing that she can really hit hard on. Well, medium and hard. So the whole pushback to the Republican and trying to prevent the Democrats from forgiving student loan debt, which Biden tried to push through, which he has in some way, shape, or form, which people have gone to the Supreme Court to try to prevent. So if you're going to have young voters, that's one part of the electorate. Emphasizing reproductive rights. You cannot emphasize that enough. That should be point A, point B, point C, point D that you're focused on. What I think our weakness is, I think the border issue is a big weakness. I think that our biggest weakness is the border issue because they were very slow in responding, really, really slow in responding. You can't have people just coming across the border without going through some kind of process, try to get here, and you're not responding to it, especially when you're overburdening resources, especially on the southern border. You see in Florida and in Texas, they're flying and busing people to the Northeast because they're saying the Northeast supports this because they're not feeling the pain. So that resonates with the electorate, and they're going to emphasize that. They're going to emphasize her being a progressive, supposedly. I don't think she's a progressive, by the way. She's from California. They're going to emphasize her experience or lack thereof. They're going to try to tie her to any policy which may seem to be negative in nature. But the good thing about her is, unlike an incumbent, she's not an incumbent. She don't own anything. It's the best place to be. That's why what Trump was able to beat Hillary, because even though what he mainly had against Hillary that was against him was he had no experience in government. And secondly, his personal life was a mess. Right? Hillary had her husband. She had her situation with the whole confidential files didn't help when she saved stuff on her personal drive. But at the end of the day, when you're not the incumbent, even though you can tie her to Biden, she's not Biden. And what she's doing is going on the campaign trail and showing people, I am me. And given Biden's age and the way he's now operating, and he's not as mobile as he used to be, you can see her vigor, her strength, her eloquence, how articulate she is, how thoughtful she is. So she's in a good place. It's a good place. As a Jamaican, what are your thoughts on Jamaican government refusal to grant diplomatic immunity for the spouse of a gay diplomat that was set to be posted to Kingston back in 2003? Look, I am not homophobic. So, and I've had people gay. The best person who worked for me, the smartest person. I hope my people who used to work for me don't hear this, but we're straight. But was what told me he was gay. He was brilliant, and I talk up to today. I am not homophobic. When you grow up in Jamaica, that doesn't happen to you. When you go out in the larger world, you treat people as people. But that's Jamaica's prerogative, right? You go to Saudi Arabia, where they have laws against individuals who may be homosexuals. It's for Jamaica and US to work that out. That's Jamaica and US to work that out. And yes, you got to respect laws. And America doesn't do this a lot of time, but people, of the land you go to, right? You need to respect people's laws. That's their laws. It's discriminatory, yes, but you have to respect their laws. That's their laws. You have to subscribe to it. You go places like Uganda, it's 10 times worse than Jamaica. I think Jamaica is a little more tolerant. But I don't think you persecute people. Look, people like me get black who are persecuted because of our skin color. Why would I want to persecute anybody else because of their sexuality or whatever they want to do? I think black people should be the ones who are much more empathetic in this area. And because a lot of people grew up look, when I grew up in Jamaica, it was real homophobic. And you get educated that way. But if you grow and you travel and you learn, you treat people like people. And you learn, especially when you go into places where the majority is not you, and you see how people treat you because you're a different color. And if you operate differently, hey, that's your prerogative, but I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing. Treat people like people. Lord, yeah, man, stop that. The border is our strength. Is the voting block for them. The border is not our strength. The border is our biggest liability. Biggest liability. Trust me, it's our biggest liability. Now, I won't go to Trump challenges tonight because when I do my next show, I'm going to do that. I'm supposed to have a show on Friday, but I may because I may have to be traveling. But I'm trying to bring on a guest to talk about immigration, people. Not immigration in the context of the border, but immigration in the context of just generally about immigration. the whole process. What you have to do if you come to the U.S. and trying to get legal, and the person can also provide some help. So I'm hoping he comes on Friday. If I'm here on Friday, because I have to travel, I'm not sure. I'm trying to work that out. Would I be able to do so? If I'm not traveling, I'll do it. If I'm traveling, it won't get done. What's Princess saying? I'm getting a bonus situation after the first plane hit. Oh, so Princess Jillian saying she was also in Manhattan. Yeah, a lot of people have stories about the whole 9/11 actually. Observations, but Christians say sodomy is a sin. How do you square what you shared in a Christian society? So you're trying to get me in trouble, Mr. Observation. Hypocrisy is almost inherent in the society. So you think hypocrisy be a learned behavior? It's almost like it's innate. It's really bad, actually. Christians say one thing and they do something else. Now, there are certain members of Congress who are Republicans who people have inferred that they are gay, actually. And I won't call any names, but just think about senators from the South who are unmarried and speculation is made about their sexuality. And they're supposedly Christian evangelicals. They're supported by the evangelical base. So what you're found in society nowadays, people, is this. People have their ideology. They have what they want to get done. And they don't look at the person. They could say their religion says homosexuality is against the laws of the church, against the laws of the land, and yet they elect you because you support what they're doing. So I'm not a Christian, but at the same time, the hypocrisy it's the hypocrisy is not right. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, he says illegal immigration is the good cop, bad cop nature of American politics. Let them in. Democrats let them in. Republicans get them build back cheaper. Yeah, look, immigration helps a lot of countries. So if you look at China, which don't really buy into immigration, some of the most successful countries are the ones who embrace immigration, like Canada, like the U.S. In the U.S., you now have people on opposite sides about this. Look, first of all, the U.S. was built on immigration. So how people are trying to stop immigration doesn't make any sense to me. The U.S. is lucky that they have immigration. Why? Because a lot of people in the U.S. who have been here for a long time basically stop having kids. You need about 2.1 kids to maintain your population, much less to grow your population, right? So if you don't grow your population and people get old, then who's going to support them? How are you going to fund your Social Security? Think about it this way. Japan is struggling. A lot of people get old in Japan, die alone. Sometimes they die, no one even know they're there because they have, they probably have, in Japan, people live a long time, actually. A very safe country, by the way. And Tokyo, I've been to Tokyo a number of times, very safe. If you look at China, which is now raising the retirement age, because they realize they have so many people who are past a certain age and who are retired, they're going to run out of their Social Security equivalent by the mid-30s. So if you're not having, and Chinese people, and they're trying to entice people in China to have kids, because they had a one-child policy for a long time, which is now coming back to bite them. Because I mentioned you need 2.1 person per household to maintain your population, much less to grow it. And in China, they had a one-child policy for a long time. So now you have a mismatch between the sexes, and you also have a mismatch between those who are young and the amount of people you need to support an aging population. As I said, the U.S. is lucky because the birth rate is going down, but immigration is up, so it balanced them out. A lot of European countries, like Italy, for example, they're struggling. They don't embrace immigration, and they're aging. So who's going to fund those Social Security? People can retire, right? So it's interesting having that dynamics. So I'm going to play these people, listen to these people. So I'm going to touch upon Trump. I won't go into Trump tonight because I'm at my hours limit. But I'm going to touch upon Trump, people, by saying this. Trump selected J.D. Vance to be his vice president And Vance is one person who basically, in a communication to one of his roommates who was at Yale Law School with him, says Trump is the next coming of Hitler. Here are some comments that Vance made in previous communication about Trump. And this is vice presidential candidate for the Republican. And if I'm Kamala, I'm beating this to death.
Never Trump guy. I never liked him. It makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
No, I cannot stand Trump because I think he's a fraud. Well, I think he's a total fraud that is exploiting these people, who is a total fraud.
Like I said, I agree with you on Trump because I don't think that he's the person. I don't think he actually cares about folks.
So, as a conservative who thinks that Trump does not have the answers and isn't qualified to be president, what are you going to do this election, if you don't mind saying?
My current plan is to vote either third party, or as I joke to my wife, I might write in my dog, because that's about as good as it seems. But, you know, I think there's a chance, if I feel like Trump has a really good chance of winning, that I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. Ultimately, I think I'll probably vote third party. I might vote for this new guy who I really like, Evan McMullen, who I actually met the other day. But I think that I'm going to vote third party because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. He's leading our political discourse to a very negative place.
So people, that is the vice presidential Trump selected nominee for the Republican Party. Now, this is out there in what I call it record land, meaning it's recorded, it's on tape. And if I'm Kamala, it's in my advertisements. I'm telling you. When I advertise, that's part of it. I'm going to say, here is what someone, when they weren't as ambitious for elected office, when they're trying to become president at some point, here's what they think about their new boss. All right? Their new boss. Yeah, they're saying, did you get financed when you moved to America with a government grant free from road and board decay and a promise to toe the party line? What do you mean by this, Yardi? You get financed when you move to America with a government grant. Who gets financed room and board on $50,000? I haven't heard that. I know the places like New York are trying to make sure that immigrants are treated humanely, illegal immigrants who come here. And look, a lot of immigrants, I see them on the street, they're looking for work. Look, people, let me just say this. I agree there should be border policy. I agree immigration needs to be addressed and should be streamlined. But let's be clear. Most of us who come to this country, who weren't born here, came here for a better life, just like those people are doing. And part of the problem why they're here, and I said this yesterday, part of the problem why they're here, because the guns in the U.S. Guns and crime running from their country. Jamaica is no different. Trinidad is no different. Ecuador is no different. Mexico is no different. Brazil is no different. Colombia is no different. All the guns that are prominent in those countries, that permeates those countries, are made in the U.S. We have more guns in the U.S. than people in the U.S. Nobody has on the gun crimes like the U.S. in the world. The numbers are startling. So yes, the U.S. provide opportunities for people. It's an immigrant country. That's why you have Statue of Liberty. It was built on immigration. Yes, the parcels need to be streamlined. Yes, it should be addressed. Yes, you can just let people in. But let's be clear, a lot of people are persecuted. You think about Latin America, for example. People are telling you how much guns, they're taking draconian policies to fix their system because the guns are just killing people. So people are escaping for not only because of financial reason, but because for their own safety, because of guns that are made here. It's not debatable. The border crisis, to me, wouldn't be the border crisis it is today if the guns weren't permeating countries in this part of the world and those guns are made in the U.S. So when people are talking, I have to smile and say, I used to have this debate at work all the time, right? And people say, why are you here? Well, I'm here already. I came here because I didn't come here for a better life per se, as people call it. I came because my parents were here, so why wouldn't I be here? But I'm sure it afforded me a lot of opportunities. that I may not have gotten other places. Mr. Observation says, the Republican Party has been in shambles since the death of Rush Limbaugh. May he rest in peace. He used to frame their issues effectively and told everyone of how to respond to Democrats. I won't comment on Rush Limbaugh. I was not a fan. Far from it. Rush was a hypocrite. But so are a lot of Republicans, actually. Yadi says, the lower the voter turnout, the worse democratic process. Two dunces are choices, no choice. But when you define someone as a dunce, what do you mean by that, Yadi? Who is a dunce? Are you calling Kamala a dunce or Trump a dunce? Now, we've never seen Trump. By the way, people, we have never seen Trump academic records. We have never seen his taxes. The man just, I think Trump actually believed that he's the antithesis of what is deemed to be good and moral. I think actually the opposite is good in terms of how we view good. He view it good. That's good for him. Lying, cheating, all those things he believes are a good thing. Right? We've never seen his tax return, which he says he's going to provide to us. No president has ever not put their assets in trust when they get to office. There's so many things out there that I think Kamala's going to run out of. She'd never run out of things to bring up, but she needs to package it the right way. Perfect, because Trump said his fans to mob the Capitol. Yes, I mean, I have the Trump list, people. I won't talk about it tonight, but I have the Trump list of stuff that she can use, and the list is long, and the list is juicy. It's really juicy. But it has to be for the centrists. It has to be for the independents. It has to be for young people, because his base is set, right? The people going to vote for Trump are not going to change. And they voted for Trump for a couple of reasons. Immigration is one of them. I wouldn't even call it immigration. I would call it the people who believe they want to make America great again. So the question about America is, has it ever been great? And is now a great time given the advent of technology and where the world is, where what America is doing? Because America has always been a country that's very progressive, built by immigrants. A lot of the things America accomplished have been accomplished through immigrants, frankly, not those who have been here for a while. Some people just come here earlier than others, but we're all immigrants. Some just came earlier, right? I'm not sure they voted for him out of fear. I'm not sure it's out of fear, or is it out of prejudice, or is it out of, here's part of the problem, people, and let's be transparent about this, because people are talking around in circles, and I'm supposed to be Mr. Uncensored, so I'm gonna talk like an uncensored versus a balanced person, even though I always try to be balanced. The majority is losing its majority status. The prognostication, or I should say more like the prediction about where we're going to be, say 2040, 2050 suggests, the majority will no longer be the majority. Because as I mentioned before, they're not having kids. And if you look at like the Hispanic population, for example, who actually support Trump, a lot of them, the numbers will change materially in the next 20 years about who's the majority, right? And that's part of the fear. So they're trying to turn the clock back to prevent that from happening. The horse have left the barn. It ain't happening, people. Brian Burke says, I would love for someone to define Make America Great Again. Yeah. When you ask people who say that, it sounds good to them, but they have no idea what they're talking about. So if you're black, it wasn't great for you. If you're American Indians, it wasn't great for you. If you were Japanese who were in camps in World War II, it wasn't great for you. There's a lot of people it wasn't great for. It may have been great for certain segments of the population, but it wasn't great for a lot of people. It was also great for even people who are the majority then, who were poor and destitute, because a lot of those people were poor and destitute. It wasn't great for them. And here's a contradiction. Majority of the people who support Trump are people who should not support Trump. Because maybe people who have a high school diploma or don't have either have a high school, no have a college degree, have a high school diploma or don't have one, having difficult times in life, and they want a billionaire to come save them, who don't care about them, and whose whole purpose in life is to be an egomaniac, narcissistic, drag of the world, and only focus on himself. So I'm not sure why he's the epitome of being a savior for them when it doesn't make any sense. You gotta say, yes, fear-mongering is a great motivator. Who can afraid for them side most? Yes. Fear-mongering is a great, great motivator, and it's happening more and more. Yeah, and I don't know what make her great again, but at the end of the day, my hope is that um, Kamala Harris will win the presidency, and then we'll get to the question, Mr. Observation, after the vaccine, which is what will she do for people who look like her, even though Kamala is both. It's kind of funny, and I said it yesterday, that anyone who has any speck of black blood is deemed to be black across any race. So if you're Japanese, if you're Chinese, if you're English, if you're American, and you have a strap of black blood, you're black. That always amazes me. I wonder how that works with American Indian. Because it's also based about hierarchy, right? To know how people see where you fall in the hierarchy scale in the world. So you don't want anything to affect you. If the person lower down the scale, then you're that person. You're not at the person who's at the top of the scale, which is deemed to be elite, which is interesting. Yeah, it's probably more about the purge than anything else. Yeah, it's probably subsequent to World War II, frankly, when people believe that, and when you had to, revitalize because after wars, people, you're trying to rebuild a country. There's work for everybody. Then people could buy houses. There's that building going on. So yeah, you're gonna have great economic activity. It's like after the pandemic, it seemed like almost full employment when during the pandemic things are sort of shut down. You'll see that. That's why I put some caveat on Biden's achievement when it comes to the employment numbers. But for black people, it was never great. Never. Now may be the best plan for black people, even though you saw more recent events of, the black woman that got killed in Illinois when she called the cops to help her. And the cop just brazenly and inhumanely shot her to death because she had some hot water in her hand, which is, at least they're charging him for murder, which is good. But let's hope he goes to jail for a long, long time. That's just inhumane treatment of someone. But yeah, this whole "Make America Great Again," that's Trump just coined a phrase because he likes to coin phrases and likes to label people. That's what he does, right? He's a despicable human being. So I'm not. Yes, I missed the balance, but I'm not balanced when it comes to Trump because been there, seen him, know what he represents, and it's nothing good. And by the way, people, I haven't talked about this, but they have a Project 25, which is Project 2025 they're coming out with, which they say it's a 900-page document. I haven't had a chance to read it. I've got some received information about what it entails, but I'm going to read it first before I make any comment on it, except to say they want to re-engineer the federal government. They want to change it. They want to mass deportation of people. They want to make America, I'm going to say, white again, but it's never been truly white because Caucasian came here and saw the Indians. They forced blacks to come here, so it's never been truly white. But they want to make it where the whites dominate, and they're in a position where they do any and everything that they would like to do, and they're top of the food chain, which they still are, frankly. But I think you would think that as human beings, we want people to be treated fairly, equitably. I will never use the word equal anymore because I'm not sure equal will ever exist. But treated fairly, treated with respect, given similar opportunities, and not one person or one race want to dominate. But that's what Trump and his people want. And Democrats are saying no. We're just going to ask you to do a show on it. On what, Brian? What would you like a show on? Let me know. About America being great again? Which it never was. The Hispanic population larger than black population. Black people value the political landscape has reduced. We need to value the policies. Yeah, it has. It has, and that will continue to be. The black population has not been growing a lot, Black were between, say 15% of the population for a long time. It's about 40-some million black people in America, which is more than a lot of countries, probably the entire Caribbean combined, most of the Caribbean. If you add Cuba and Haiti, Dominican Republic, most of the Caribbean actually. But the Hispanics, and it's about the electoral base, right? Now the question is everyone getting citizenship when you think about it? Project 2025. Yes, I have to read up on it first and then talk to it because I'm sure it's 900 pages. So, and you guys know I spend a lot of time on YouTube. So I figure, when do I get time to read it? I need to read the Cliff Notes because something you can read the Cliff Notes and get most of it, right? You don't have to go into all the details. So I have to figure out how I get some kind of Cliff Notes to read. I like the details, frankly, because then you can parse through stuff. But I have to do some reading and get some information first before I talk about it in length. Well, yeah, they can make some comment. I think I got the stream. Yeah, they keep it decent. Keep it decent. Use some other term to get to your point. I am a CPA by trade, actually, certified public accountant. So, but yeah, I mean, I understand markets. I understand economy. So yeah, not going to tell people I'm an expert in anything, frankly, not even accounting, a CPA. And I've worked in the field for a long, long time as a CPA, actually. But yeah, no, I wouldn't call myself an historian when it comes to anything, actually. But at the end of the day, I try to be as informed as possible about as many subjects as possible. And I try not to limit myself to any one thing in life. And I also try not to run away from information. I try to run towards information. The more information you have, the more knowledge you have, the better informed you are, the better you can contribute to society. That's my philosophy, actually. So yeah, it should be interesting as we go through this process as to where we come out. And people, the situation in America, people call it the fascist movement. And I'm not going to delabel it because I think that's where it's going. That's what Trump is. I think J.D. Vance also says the next coming of Hitler. I was looking for that information to put up on the screen. I couldn't find it. But I know he has said that in the past. If you look at Europe, for example, whether it's France, which struggled with the far right and they almost got the majority, whether it's England, not necessarily having far right, but the Tories weren't that far away in a lot of respects. And that's why they exited Brexit, because immigration and some of the things why they left, why they had Brexit, and now they're sorry they had Brexit. Look at the Dutch, for example. The far right is growing there. Germany, far right is growing. So you're seeing almost like a comeback of people believe their place in the world is not what it was before, and they want to go back to what things were. And that has just migrated to the US, right? And Trump is the leader of it. Was an executive? Yes. For quite a bit of time, yes. In multiple companies, by the way, both in the US and the UK. And it's interesting being in an arena because a lot of times you're the only one in your department and you're the only one sitting in those seats. But after a while, actually, it doesn't become strange because you're used to it. Yeah. It's really interesting. Brian Bird saying, you've been around business world in New York. Have you ever met Trump? I had a lawyer friend that met him a while back and it was not a pleasant experience. No, I've never met Trump, Most of them you see Trump is on TV. I've never met him and never wanted to meet him, actually. Never wanted to meet him, frankly, to be honest. But no, I've never met him. One person I met, actually, who impressed me was General Colin Powell, who died. When did he die? Last year? Actually, before he died, he came to my company to give a speech. And he was talking, politics was part of it. Not a lot in politics, but he was just an honorable person. He had Jamaican heritage, by the way. I think his parents may have been from Jamaica. And he was part of the Bush administration, Secretary of State. But he was a Republican who didn't vote for Trump, would never vote for Trump because he had honor, unlike a lot of Republicans. But I met him when I worked in another company years ago. We had dinner with him. Truly nice person, great stories, great history, great presence, great gravitas. And people like those you want to be around because they're just people with a moral compass. They have honor, they have integrity. People like Trump are just, what best way can you just describe Trump? Despicable? Word that comes to mind. There's no good word that comes to mind when we talk about Trump. Now, I would never say that about Bush. I would never say that about Reagan, right? Even though they're Republicans, because a while back, people were actually civil, you know. People had bipartisan bill. People weren't in their silos. But people like Trump, and by the way, people after he had his situation last, when was it? Over a week ago, he basically say almost wants to suggest he's a changed person, and you hear him speak, and he goes back to who he is. He goes back to who he is. What do you mean? Where was I? A AA baby? What do you mean? No, no, no. No, I mean you're talking about. No, I don't. I don't think so. Actually, I mean, I pride myself. Here's what I learned, people, which is this. And part of growing up in Jamaica influences this. Like, and there are a lot of Jamaicans work on Wall Street. A lot of Jamaicans work on Wall Street, by the way, compared to blacks in general. A lot of West Indians, I should say, not just Jamaican, West Indians, Trinidadians, Bajans. When you go educated in Jamaica, for example, you went to high school in Jamaica, you have really good foundational education. And you grew up in an environment where you believe that, because with the people you saw on TV, like in Jamaica, the people who are really rich and don't look like you don't really see them that much. You hear about them, the Matalans, the Isas, but you don't really see them that much. So you can't equate and relate to them. But the teachers you see, the people you see on TV, some of the lawyers you see and doctors you see, they look like you. So it's not a far reach to say, you know what, I can be like that person. So when I went to the military and came out of the military, because when I came here, there was no money, to be honest. That's why I went to the military. I came out. I went to school and I did my work. I work full-time and go to school full-time. I didn't feel intimidated when I went in the work environment. I was a little bit older than the person who just went from high school, because I went to the military. And I went here and I'll give you an example, people. I came here let's say I came here in January and I signed up in March and I was in the military in April. So I landed here in January from Jamaica and I looked around and said, well, I want to go to college because I just finished high school in Jamaica. By the way, I went to the best high school in Jamaica, which everyone knows what that is. I don't have to say it. So I get beaten for that, but I don't really. I say it because, well, I went to 2 high schools in Jamaica, but one of them is deemed to me to be the best. So I came here in January. It was cold, January 5th. It was cold, freezing, and I was like, I need to go back home to Jamaica. This is not working for me. Back then we had cold. We don't have cold in New York nowadays. And I signed up in March. I went to go look up some colleges. I was going to run around. I didn't have any money. Didn't have any money in the house. So I signed up March. I was there in April. Right? So when I came out, I was more seasoned then. And I was in the military. And the military trained you to be no obstacles. That's one thing the military does. They give you sort of discipline and train you that no obstacles are insurmountable. None. Get it done. And the motto of the military would be, no excuses, get it done. So that's why I viewed my life when I came out. Work full-time, go to school full-time, got it done. BM, you probably only, BM, anyone who says so didn't go to KC. And that's not a lot of people either, because most people know it's the best school, probably the best high school in the world, actually. I was being humble when I said Jamaica. That's my view. Even though I'm a Russian also, and I probably get beaten from Russians. And I enjoy Russia's more than Casey, but I think Casey's the best high school for a lot of different reasons. Yeah, but see, here's the problem, people, with that comment by Yadi. Yes, Monroe is good academically, and so is Casey, by the way, but they're one-dimensional. Casey does any and everything. Sports, academics, the whole gamut of the high school experience they do. That's why they're the best. Harvard maybe well, in the US, I'm not sure what college one can do the best. There's competition between Ivy League schools academically, but they're not great in sports. Casey's good in everything and can compete in anything. On the rankings, they're not deemed to be the best, right? You may have a Campion, you may have a Monroe, but you think about the school in totality, they are the best, actually. So the whole question about me and PR and all that. No, I wasn't PR. I don't think I was PR. I never felt intimidated in public environment. Never. I've always felt that I belong, and I've always operated like I belong, and I always knew that I belong. I always knew that I belong. I get feedback to tell me if I belong or not. which is unsolicited feedback. It's not like somebody's telling you you're good because they want to make you feel good. It's the feedback you get, and you look for feedback, by the way, and you look for effective challenge. And I work with diverse people who the only objective is to get the job done. And here's what people got to understand also about the corporate environment. There's a motto we always have amongst of us, which is, and I put it in quotes, kill them with excellence. You see, when you're excellent, sometimes people don't even see race. When you're excellent at what you do, people, I'm telling you, they just want you to get the job done for them. And the perfect example of that, even though people say, well, they may see it, but they make allowances for it because they want excellence around them. The NBA is an example. The NFL is an example. Those are more apparent and obvious examples. But when you're excellent at what you do, people want you on their team and they want to be around you because you make them look good. And people say otherwise, they're not. And I've seen it with my peers and I've seen it in my career where there are people I know who, and interesting enough, a number of them are Jamaicans or Jamaican heritage who are excellent and who are blacks and who are treated like royalties because they were just good at what they do. Good at what they do. So, yeah. Oh, Lord. Lord, please take BM under your wings and educate him because he know not what he says. Calabar. That's not a good thing. But anyway, people, it's almost 10:30. I'm here almost an hour and a half. I appreciate those of you in the audience for being here and more importantly, contributing. Please do me a favor and spread the word about the channel. I started with a rocky start, which is I had Uncensored View. I love that name, by the way. And then today I was trying to find a channel with some of my support personnel in my household. And we struggled to find the channel. We found the channel way down. We typed the channel in. We struggled to find it. So I said I have to change the name. So I spent with my nephew, he and I spent about an hour changing everything about the channel to be, and came up with a new name, which since someone on my other channel called me Balance, a person who I thought I was the most unbalanced person ever, he actually called me that I'm a balanced person on YouTube. So I say, you know what? I'm going to assume that name. So yeah. So share the channel, share the news about my new channel, like and subscribe, have people, subscribe. Because I mean to have a lot of these conversations, actually. You're already saying black people were always the high achievers on Wall Street because they were highly motivated. Yeah, no. Extremely highly motivated, actually. Extremely highly motivated. And a lot of them do well. And actually, you're seeing more and more of those people. A company I used to work for, they have a number of people who are black who are doing phenomenally well. Phenomenally well, I'm telling you. And those people are setting the bar. They're examples. They provide mentoring, nurturing. They're doing really well in that environment. But it's tough sometimes because sometimes those people can't get out to do more in the normal environment in the communities because they're working really long hours. But like when I first went to work in public accounting, I was doing 15-hour days for months on end. 15-hour days. My mom moved to Florida from New York. I didn't even know when she moved. I was so busy. They have something they call an accounting busy season. So you go to work at 7 o'clock, you come home at 11, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. It happens, people, right? But if you work hard and you work smart, hopefully, that's my chime to say time's up. Hopefully you do well, people. And I'm trying to encourage those around me and family members and friends and those I mentor to don't be dissuaded by obstacles. Embrace obstacles and overcome them. Don't be afraid of hard work. But when you do hard work, be just as smart. No matter what you do, if you're a plumber, if you're a doctor, lawyer, electrician, first of all, if you're in those disciplines, like you do trade, get licensed, people. Licensed people make more money than people who are not licensed. That's the first thing. Get licensed. A lot of people don't get licensed. They're afraid of it. They complain about insurance, and they don't realize the opportunities they're missing by not being licensed. So if you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, whatever discipline you're in, which you can get a license, sometimes it may not be required for some, get the license. You're going to add a number of dollar signs to your paycheck. Trust me. Yes, that happened to Yardi. But if you're someplace and not working for you, not getting the appreciation you should get, then leave. Yes, yeah, over, under, I go through the obstacle. Sometimes you have to step on the obstacle and move forward, right? Sometimes you can't go over and under. And look, I've been in an environment where I've experienced some things which are not pleasant in the public corporate environment. But one or two places I've left because I'm like, this is not working for me. Other places I was embraced better than, and most of the places I even left, I did well in. But sometimes you have most people. This is my last point. Most people leave jobs because of their bosses. Just go and check. Now, people may say they leave for compensation, they leave because they're moving, they relocate. No, most people leave jobs if they want to stay in the job because of their bosses. And yours truly is one of them actually at some point. Doesn't always get along with your boss. And as Jamaicans, sometimes we can sometimes respond sometimes we probably shouldn't. Put it that way. So it's not that I respond anyway, but some of you have bosses who are just difficult to deal with, and you have to have the conversation, and the conversation may not go well, and you have to make a decision. You either go or you stay. And if you're doing well in your profession, you have street recognition, you can get opportunities, right? If you work for good companies, you have done well, and you have a good resume, people want to hire you. So whatever you do in life, you're a good carpenter, and you know carpentry well, there's always going to be construction, especially in New York, where they seem to be building straight up, and all the one family houses are coming down and they put up apartment buildings. So whatever you're doing, discipline you're doing in life, do it to the best of your ability, learn your trade, become an expert. You see me trying to do YouTube, and I want to do it the right way. So I spend a lot of time investing in my YouTube capabilities, both trying to utilize tools, but also in information. Everybody should do that. Nah, I'm going to call it a dream, but America has more opportunities, for example, than, say, England. I've been to England. Trust me. Ain't nothing to write about. And I'm going to get beaten for this, but it's a good country, but it's not the U.S. The U.S. have a lot of opportunities. People here are plumbers and they're rich. They're carpenters and they're rich. In most countries in the world, you can't do that. Most countries, you can't do that. You can't have a trade in most countries and be rich of that trade, unless you're the owner of a business. You can be a worker here and you gotta be careful about the word rich, but do financially really, really well by, getting a trade, for example. In a lot of countries, you can't do that. So anyway, all right, people. It's the end of my spiel this evening. I appreciate you being here. Yardi, BM, Mr. Observation, Princess Jillian, to each of you, I hope I'm not missing someone. To each of you, thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. I'm sure the numbers will grow at some point if you spread the word, and if I do a better job of getting the information out. And we'll see what happens going forward. But I appreciate you being here. I have no music to take you out. I'm not going to do any music tonight. Some people, let me ask you this question. You think I should have some background, what I call it, outgo music? Not what I do before my other channel, right? But you can let me know how that should work, actually. Or you just close out like normal people do when you close the channel down. Yes, I looked into the cranky, but we'll talk more later. Okay. All right, Yadi. No, but it's I don't know if you want to call it a dream, but Yadi, people are still coming here now in droves, right? I would say more they come to the West, but they're coming here in droves. So, all right, people, let me just say this. Thanks for being here. Next show, I'll talk about Trump somewhat, because we're going to go through the same thing I went through with Kamala will do for Trump. And you'll see the contrast between the two candidates. So, anyway, people, Ted Dexter, sorry about I saw your last thing. Thanks for being here. I need a theme song. All right, I'm going to get a theme song. So, but, it's going to be interesting with a theme song because a little bit different show. So we'll have to see how that works in terms of a theme song. Greed is good. That's what they say on Wall Street. Greed make you rich. I don't think greed is good. It's just if you do really well in life, you should try to do well in life. Let's put it that way, right? Do well for you and your family. So yeah, I'm not gonna say greed is good because greed causes a lot of problems for people, but you should try to do well. But yeah, I work on a theme song, Ted Dexter. But anyway, I'm gonna say good night, everyone. I hope if I don't see you or engage with you for the rest of the week, hope you have a great week. Thanks for being here. Please spread the word. Please spread the word I should say, and have a good night. Peace out.